spring already started.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Plaistow Board of Selectmen meeting for March 16th, 2020. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. Beth, may I have a roll call, please?
Select Chair, Ms. Hart.
Here.
Select Vice Chair, Mr. Kishka.
Here.
Selectman, Mr. Talion.
Here.
Selectman, Mr. Selectman, Mr. Blinn.
Here.
And note for the record, Town Manager, Mr. Pearson is here.
All right, thank you. Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? So first item agenda is to approve the meeting minutes of March 2nd.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of March 2nd.
All right, is there a second on that?
I second the motion.
All righty, discussion? No? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carries 4-0-0. There does not appear to be anybody here for public comment, so we are just going to go right into our first agenda item, which is the swearing in of our brand-new selectmen. So, Jay, would you come on up? And Greg is going to administer the oath of office to you.
I, state your name.
I, Jay Roche,
Do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm
do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm
that I bear faith and true allegiance
that I bear faith and true allegiance
to the United States of America
to the United States of America
and the state of New Hampshire,
and the state of New Hampshire,
and will support the Constitution thereof,
and will support the Constitution thereof.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I, state your name,
I, Jay Roche,
do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm
do solemnly and sincerely swear and affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and perform all duties incumbent upon me
and perform all duties incumbent upon me
as selectman for a term of 3 years,
as selectman for a term of 3 years,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
agreeable to the rules and regulations
agreeable to the rules and regulations
of this Constitution
of this Constitution
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire,
and the laws of the state of New Hampshire.
so help me God.
So help me God.
All right. Congratulations. So you may have a seat, and we are very excited to have you on board, and we're really looking forward to working with you.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
You can touch base with Greg a little bit later on after the meeting, and he'll give you kind of an orientation as to what you should be getting and all that other stuff. So you can wait till after our meeting for that.
Great.
All right. Okay, do you need to give that to Beth?
Yeah, we'll have to wait for Jay to sign it, and then we all sign.
All right, why don't we wait for all the signatures at the end of the meeting, unless you want to do it right now?
Okay. Jay, if you can sign right there. It's March 16th. Since the warrant article, it just got passed.
Thank you.
And there you go. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the election of Board of Selectmen officers.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Francine Hart for the position of chair.
All right, thank you.
I second the motion.
You second the motion, okay. Is there a discussion on that by any chance? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Abstain? Okay, so the motion carries 3-1-0. And I would like to put a motion on the floor to recommend Greg Talon as the vice chair.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, discussion on that? No. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Oh, no, wait, you know what? I screwed up that last motion. Did you vote yes?
Yes,
Okay, so that
I
was
did.
4-1-0, I'm sorry. I'm so used to doing the 4-0-0s, okay. So this motion carries 5-0-0. Okay, great.
Thank you.
All righty. So the next item agenda is our water grant and our certificate of authorization. I'm going to let Mark talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So after last Monday's meeting up in Concord, I received from Gene Forbes through New Hampshire DES a paper that you have in front of you today. I think they got it in their folder. That is just an additional authorization that they require for this grant. And let me get my hands on it. So it's called a certificate of vote of authorization. So it's one extra certificate that they need in the package. I've done this before for similar grants where prior to going to the executive council, we had to take another motion so that they have it in the package to actually know that the board has authorized the town manager to do certain things. In this case, so you know what the substantive, agreement is to accept $10,112,202 with an asterisk that number could go higher depending on other things that they find. So it's it's more of just a function of that they need this certificate. And this motion that you make will be the actual document that will be notarized to be in the package, that you've authorized me to perform all the signatures necessary for $10,112,202. So like I told you, if you're not in favor of this and you vote this down, we won't get 10 million, and I will have a normal life for the next 2 or 3 years. So if you vote in the affirmative, I'm not going to have a normal life for the next 2 to 3 years.
He's asking us to vote no.
Are you asking for a normal life?
Make a motion to grant authority for Plaistow Town Manager Mark A. Pearson to sign grant agreements with the State of New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for the potable water project.
Second the motion.
Is there, I just had a quick question. Is this kind of a blanket authorization for the other forthcoming grants, or do we have to do this every time we get a grant? This water project?
Yeah, so this is different. This is a certificate that moves forward with the package to the governor and council. Once the governor and council, assuming that they approve this, which I have no reason to believe that they won't, then I'll be coming back to you with the actual grant for you to accept the grant.
Okay.
So that's a different,
All right.
that's a different
Right,
one.
right.
But I'm hoping, just for the sake of advertising and noticing the public, that we can do it as a
Right.
blanket.
Right.
And I'll try to, Greg had an interesting suggestion. He wanted to approve it when we get to that point for up to, say, $11 million, so that we don't have to keep on coming back. But I'll let you decide between now and then if that's what you want to do. If you just approve what's been approved by the
That's all we
governor and
get.
council,
That's all we get,
then we can come
right?
back, we can come back at some other point and say, well, there's some additional grant money. But it's up to the board, you can think about it before your next meeting.
All right. And it may make better
Before,
sense.
it would be something like in May or June when I come for you to grant, because we have to do a public hearing. We don't have to do a public hearing for this, because this is
Right.
just a certificate of authority for me to sign.
Right, okay, all right, and it almost would make better sense to do up to X amount of dollars, because that's the way we have approved other motions before when boards have come to ask for requests for money, so we may want to consider that similar process. All right, so is there any more discussion on this?
It's
Jay?
just, this $10 million, this is going to be money to get this project going?
So-
and put the pipes in the ground
Yes.
and get off and running, right?
Yes, so there's, every town has, they use the initial for the town, so we have P1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
It's broken into 4 parts. So it's for all 4 parts, and we're not gonna be given a check in that amount. What we're gonna be given is, as we have work performed, and we get the invoices, then we submit it, and then they send it back to us. And the quick turnaround is, is very quick, because these funds stand on their own right now, the Drinking Water Revolving Trust Fund and the MTBE. So, and they're already doing it in Windham and Salem and Hawk. So it's a quick turnaround, because that was my question because of the large amounts about our cash flow, because what I didn't want is our cash flow to be hurt. So realistically, the way we're gonna try to set it up is we don't use any of our cash. What we do is we get the invoices, we submit it, and then they get the payment, and we're Greg's gonna handle that as an enterprise fund, and it won't affect us, because that was one of my concerns early on, and we've been assured that it's a quick turnaround.
Any other discussion on this? All right, so all those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain? Motion carries 500. You will not have a normal life. I'm sorry. All right. The only other item agenda that we have under other business, in light of the COVID-19 issues, I would like someone to put a motion on the floor to authorize Mark to expend from our contingency fund without further board approval. So that basically means he doesn't have to come to us every time he expends funds for that. We'll give him a blank check for that. So would someone like to put that motion on the floor?
So I'll make a motion that we give the town manager the authority to expend from the contingency fund for all expenses related to the current virus event or issue.
Okay, and may I have a second on that, please?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there any discussion on that?
I got a question.
Sure, Jake, go ahead.
I don't know what types of expenses this would entail, so do you have any examples of what types of expenses?
Yes. So, to date, we've ordered some supplies that are the masks. We've ordered additional sanitizers and supplies that we need to have on hand. The fire chief is going to be buying some extra protection for the firefighters that are not disposable. They're cartridges that can be swapped in and out, so they keep the mask and change the cartridges. We've had to perform some work in town that I'll talk to you later in non-public about because of emergency management that they've asked us to do in case of like a contingency plan. The other expenses to date, I don't think that there's been a whole lot where the fire chief is keeping track of it, because I named him the Deputy Emergency Management Director, and he's keeping track of it for reimbursement purposes. And we did hear today that anything related to this that is subject to a review process, that it's related to this and so forth, is going to be reimbursable by up to 75%. So that's because they've declared this a state of emergency and so forth. There's no doubt that over the next few weeks or maybe a couple months that there'll be things that we don't anticipate. I'm not real concerned about this. I mean, this is nice to have. The truth of the matter is that we have been spending from the department budgets in anticipation we're going to get reimbursement before the end of the year. We think that there'll be enough time. But this would give me just that extra layer in case something really, really out of the ordinary. So it's not, this is a case where we're still waiting to see if it's actually going to impact the town or not. I don't really see any large expenses, really. I think it's just going to be a combination of smaller expenses that we're going to have to adjust. If we start seeing people go out of work, then that would come from the salary lines anyways. It wouldn't be something that I would do this with. So I'll keep the board apprised of the emergency management expenses and anything that's expense-related, and then we'll be able to visit this again and then have you be the ones to say which fund it comes out of, if you want to use it out of this. Because remember, this was established by the voters for unanticipated purposes. This is certainly a category of an unanticipated
Yes, it
purpose.
is.
So, but we got plenty of time before the end of the year. So we'll, this is not one that's like a snowstorm or, a blizzard where you know that every hour that the snow is out there, there's an expense that's creeping up on you. This isn't really like that. I'm going to really say that it's going to be for supplies and things we don't have right now, but we can't even get them right now, so we're going to wait and see, and maybe we'll get them from the state if we need them. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mark, is this going to involve any FEMA funds at all, or is this just state at this point?
Well, I suppose that it might fall under that. I think it's really going to, no, it's actually, the answer is no. It's going to fall under Homeland Security, and it's going to fall under EMPG grants, not FEMA.
Grant, okay. All right.
Yeah, because those are grant funds that the state gets every year. So they've already told us today, those are the two funds that they'll be looking at, not FEMA, because FEMA is more for like a natural disaster
All right.
and so forth.
Right, great. All right, so I believe that concludes our agenda at this point. I would like to remind everyone, please make sure you go through all the signature folders. There's a ton of them there, and there's a bunch of signatures. The other thing that we need to make sure is that we sign our Visions contract before you leave tonight, too. That has to go out tonight. And Julian, go ahead.
You have other business. I'll make a motion that we do not spend any money on the salt shed or the landfill projects at this time until we know the economic impact it'll have on our citizens. We don't know, people who are out of work now have been told not to go to work. They don't know if they're going to get paid or not. And until we find out what's actually going to happen down the road.
Go ahead, Mark.
I don't believe that that would be a legal motion. I think it conflicts with the voters. The voters voted on a warrant article. Warrant articles stand on their own. The voters voted for those warrant articles. I don't believe any selectman's vote can usurp a warrant article.
And I think perhaps it's more of a timing issue than a yes or no issue. And I'm going to have to say that we're all intelligent people. We know what the priorities are, and we are certainly not going to be sending out RFPs next week to build the salt shed. People have to give us a little bit more credit than that.
Well, can I just ask a question about that?
Hold on, go ahead.
I fully intended to move forward with RFPs for the salt shed, so unless the board is going to tell me not to do that, and I don't know why you would do that.
All right, go ahead. We didn't have a second on that.
I'm not canceling I'm not suggesting to cancel the project. I'm saying just to withhold, because the tax bills come out in June, and if people can't pay their taxes and they can't pay them, we're going to have to still pay our bills. We'll have to pay the school bill, we'll still have to pay all the other bills, and we could have a cash flow problem, because I don't know where this is going, because I don't have a crystal ball.
Well, that's exactly the point, I think. The issue is that we do have contingencies for tax anticipation note, which would float and cover us for the time being. So I think that is a very worthwhile comment, but I think you also have to realize that we're not being reckless or foolish with the town or the taxpayers or the citizens that live here. And so if you can still pursue an RFP, that doesn't mean we award the contract. That means we can put it off. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, we extended the values anew contract out 6 weeks exactly for that reason. So I will have a tendency to maybe agree that you can't stop a voter's vote. And I think if we have half a brain and we're prudent, we will do this at the appropriate time. So I'm going to disallow that motion. What are your thoughts?
Totally
can still
different
talk,
subject.
yeah.
I've talked to a couple
right.
of people in the Beatty area who are having a hard time getting water, because the bottled water situation has already
Dried
got a
up?
problem.
Okay.
So I don't know if there's anything we can do as a town, or maybe we can send somebody up to Hale Spring and see if that, the spring up there could be revived.
Do we know who is bringing water to these people?
No, because that was, that had nothing to do with my office since I've been here, so that was more an agreement with Beatty on providing them with water.
And it's just a reimbursement.
And it's a reimbursement,
And
yeah,
that's kind of the
okay.
issue that John's bringing,
Okay,
is that the
see-
source is not the state.
Right.
It's they buy the water, and then they get
Okay,
reimbursed.
okay. So,
Okay, so it's not actually, excuse me, it's not water, it's just the reimbursement for the water, is that what I'm?
They can't find it.
No.
They're going, it's not there.
All right,
So the point that I was trying to say was that the issue is, the way it's set up, they purchase the water themselves, and then BD reimburses them for that cost. Right now, there's no water to buy, and that's the point that John's making.
right.
It's an availability issue. It's not,
Well-
it's already being paid for. It's not for us to do, but basically,
Right.
he's raising an issue that there's an availability for a group of citizens that normally would get water from the local stores.
all right.
so why don't I do this? Why don't I reach out to the BD people who ironically sent me some correspondence today? Because they're going to be closing down some of their operations.
Yes, Michael
So why don't
Skinner.
I reach out to them, since it is their issue with the reimbursement, and why don't I shift the burden to them to find the water for the people? Because they would know by the reimbursements how much water people needs, and I'll try to get them to do it direct and take us out of the middle. We're not in the middle now, why should we put ourselves in the middle?
Right,
To-
but we
to-
s- we
To your
s-
point about the Hale Spring, so I became familiar with that recently. We're testing that because that's part of the state testing, because they wanted to test all of the state wells. So I told them to go ahead with all of the testing, and there's a little bit of, I want them to test for everything, PFOA, PFAS, everything. So there was a little bit of an additional expense to what they were offering, but since they're going to do the testing, I said, we'll pay the extra to just do it. And I authorized that for all of our town wells, with the exception of the one at the cemetery, because quite frankly, that water wasn't going to be for drinking purposes or whatever. So Hale Spring was one of them. So we don't have the results back. But to your point, I guess we'll know very shortly if that can be used and resurrected, and that could be a nice alternative. So actually, ironically, we're working on that, and we might have an answer.
We definitely need to make sure we take care of our citizens.
I'll call BD, I'll call him tomorrow, Mike Skinner, and
All right, and
we'll
could you
reach
just-
right out to him right
And
away.
would you let the board know
Sure.
the disposition of this?
Sure.
Is anybody in critical state right now at this point?
They didn't state, but,
They're
people are
getting
starting,
nervous.
they're getting
yeah,
nervous.
nervous, all right. Okay, thanks for bringing that up, that's important.
I'm wondering if we get our water from MWB Mason, and I'm wondering if any of that is available.
In an emergency.
Because people are looking for the bottles and the gallons, but this
Yeah.
right here could be a resource. Why don't we check
Right.
with WB Mason tomorrow? And if we find that
Right.
that's an easy solution, we'll just direct the people to WB Mason and just do
And then
that.
BD would reimburse WB. All right, that makes sense.
Okay.
Does Staples do anything like that too? Or,
Well, they used to sell water, but it's selling out.
yeah, all right, so we'll explore whatever avenues that we can. All right, is there any more business that we need to discuss before we go into non-public? No? All right. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we go into non-public session, RSA 91-A:3, 2, Section I, emergency functions.
May I have a second on that, please?
I second the motion.
All right, may I get a voice vote, please? Yes.
Mr. Pishka?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Flynn?
Yes.
Mr. Burrows?
Yes.
Okay, so we will go into non-public at 6:55.
Who is that?